There we go. Had the wrong password. Fixed it now. All right. We'll go ahead and get started. Good evening, everyone. It is January 25th, 2021. It is currently 6:05 p.m. I'm Mayor Edward Sundquist for the City of Jamestown. We're here for a public hearing on the City of Jamestown's 5-year Consolidated Action Plan and Annual Action Plan. With us tonight, just to recognize those members, elected officials that are here. We have Council President Tony Dulce, who's joining us. We have Councilmember Kimberly Eklund. We have Councilmember Marie Karuba and Councilmember Tom Nelson. To begin with our hearing, Clerk Williams, if you could please read the legal notice.
Sure. Notice is hereby given that the City of Jamestown will hold a public hearing on Monday, January 25th, 2021 at 6:00 p.m. Due to COVID-19 related restrictions, the city's focus on citizen safety and in efforts to minimize a large gathering, the public hearing will be held virtually on Zoom. Access to the public hearing is as follows, and the Zoom web address was given as well as the phone number to call in on. The purpose of this public hearing is to assist the Department of Development in gaining a better understanding of the housing, neighborhood, and economic development needs that might be addressed through the city's Community Development Block Grant, CDBG, and home program allocations for 2020 and its fiscal year 2020 to fiscal year 2024 consolidated plan. I won't read all of the details. The rest of the legal notice will be entered into the record as Exhibit A.
Thank you, Clerk Williams. I appreciate that. Before we begin with the public comment period, I would like to recognize Crystal Sertic from the Department of Development, as well as Ellen Shadle, who is our principal planner here in the City of Jamestown. I'll ask if they have any presentation or information they'd like to present prior to public comments.
Thank you, Mayor. We do. We have a brief presentation. I'm just going to share my screen. Maybe. Doesn't want to share from this side. And try again. There we go. Okay. So as the mayor mentioned, we are here to hear public comments on the Consolidated Action Plan for the 2020 to 2024 program years. Quick overview of the Consolidated Action Planning process. It's quite a lengthy process. We actually began some of these items and tasks here actually back in 2019, the end of 2019, and continued to work through them throughout 2020, gathering expert information from stakeholders, other partner organizations and agencies, consulting with HUD regulations and guidelines, working through drafting the consolidated plan as well as the annual action plan, which will be submitted at the same time as the consolidated plan. Seeking public review. We've had quite a lengthy public review process. And then this evening we'll seek municipal approval and we'll submit the application to HUD later on this week. I won't go through all of this, but here is the process timeline. This presentation will also be included in the appendix that will be submitted to HUD. So, and it will be made available to the public. Important to note, HUD has national objectives that we must develop our plan around. So the first is benefit to low and moderate income persons. The second is aid in the prevention or elimination of slums or blight. And the third is meet a need having a particular urgency, or referred to as urgent need. We also often refer to it as an emergency type situation. Programs, the programs that the City of Jamestown participates in are the Community Development Block Grant and the Home Investment Partnership Program. Proposed activities, I'll go through these briefly. So they're broken out into different program areas. I'll just read the description and the dollar amount that we are proposing. Under the CDBG, or the Community Development Block Grant programs, lead poisoning prevention in the amount of $55,000, strategic code enforcement in the amount of $57,517, small business development and technical assistance in the amount of $49,085, environmental assessment and remediation in the amount of $55,000, housing, counseling, and education in the amount of $10,000, community engagement and enhanced community safety in the amount of $30,000, neighborhood target area infrastructure improvement program, $150,000, ADA improvements in public facilities, $144,935, rehabilitation, publicly or privately owned commercial or industrial properties, $150,000, for a subtotal of $701,537,000. Continuing with Community Development Block Grant, addressing slums and blight activities, we have strategic anti-blight initiatives for $75,000 and neighborhood target area demolition in the amount of $100,000 for a subtotal of $175,000. There is a CDBG administrative fee that allows the city to administer the program. That's in the amount of $321,512, and that is an amount that is determined by HUD. Total CDBG activities are $1,198,049. Summary of our home program activities. The home owner occupied rehabilitation program in the amount of $256,850. And then we have the CHOTO set aside, which is it's also predetermined by HUD at 15%, and that's $51,370 for a subtotal of $308,220. Again, there is an administrative fee of $34,247 for a total of $342,467. And that will, again, it will be included as part of the appendix to the overall plan, but you can also view all of that information as part of the plan. If you have any questions, of course, here is our email. You can also call the Department of Development. This evening does mark the end of the public comment period. So we're looking forward to hearing from you. That does it for my presentation. Mayor, you are muted.
Got it. Thank you, Ms. Sertic. I appreciate that. Before we get to comments from the floor and the public, I'll ask if there's any initial comments from the elected officials here or any introductory remarks they'd like to make.
I would, thank you. I just want to comment again on, I appreciate the funds that are being allocated under the Americans with Disabilities Act. As you know, I've been a proponent of this for many, many years. I think we really need to be proud of what we have done in the community to make it inclusive for those with physical and visual limitations to be able to get around the streets as well as the sidewalk areas. And it's been noticed by people who visit here. I think, you know, as I've said before, that they realize how navigable the community is. And I know what we've done with streetscaping to make bike lanes and other things. I've heard a lot of good comments from people. So I appreciate everything that's been done. We still have more, but you know, we are light years ahead of many other nearby communities, what they have done in terms of accessibility. So on behalf of my agency and the residents in the community, I see many of them in scooters and wheelchairs getting around. I really appreciate everything that's done, and the public access to City Hall, the elevators, the sound tones have been great. So keep it up. I just want to encourage you to continue your efforts, and thank you for everything that's been done, and continue to look forward to more in the near future. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Karuba. Are there any other council members that would like to put in a comment?
Well, I just had a quick question, and I don't want to put you on the spot, Crystal, but I'm, you know, and I appreciate I think you had $144,935 for the ADA improvements. And I just kind of wondered how you arrive at that figure. You know, I mean, it wasn't like 150,000. It was 144,935, and I just wondered what. Yeah. If sounds like maybe it's an easy question but a long answer. I
don't know. Probably it's not quite as complicated as it sounds. It's somewhere close to what we have allocated in the past. We did sort of start with 150,000. As we work through all of these numbers, they're all estimates. And, you know, some of them may shift by a few dollars here and there. There's also a program administration fee that comes off of that number. So there's a certain percentage that as we actually, you know, administer the program. So there's administration in terms of oversight, monitoring, documentation, that kind of administration. And then there's the day-to-day program specific administration. So there's the general and then there's the specific. So as we were sort of going through numbers and allocating funds to different projects, you'll see the small business development and technical assistance is $49,085. Strategic code enforcement is based on real numbers. So $57,517 is very specific to that position. So as we look through all that, we have to shift things around just a bit, trying to stick to an estimated number as close as we can.
Okay, no, thank you.
Sure.
That explains it.
Thank you, Council Member Nelson. Any other council members? All right. Hearing none, we will head to the public comment portion of this hearing. For those members of the public that would wish to speak, we ask that you limit your remarks to 5 minutes. Please state your home address prior to speaking so that we may include it on the record. Your comments should be related to the topic at hand. If you do start talking about other topics, we will ask you to come back to it. Again, we'll have 5 minutes for each participant that would like to join. So at this time, are there any members of the public that would like to provide a comment? I see Mr. Champ. If you'd like to state your name and address for the record, please, and you may go ahead with your comment.
Yes, I'm Douglas Champ. I live at 225 Bowen Street in Jamestown, New York. And before I get started, I want to thank Crystal. She and I have had numerous conversations about the program, both on the yearly basis, on the annual basis. And it really has come a long way in terms of the initial, I guess, beginning of it. And in conversations with myself, with her, and also with HUD, it's advanced quite a bit from the first go around. But after having said that, I always have questions because I think the program itself, while being comprehensive, it needs a little more detail fleshing out in terms of the investment process. For instance, you have a budget that has administration costs. And I realize that the HUD sets the limit at 20%. That doesn't have to be that. So I want to correct the point of view. HUD sets the maximum amount. The community can decide on how much they want to spend regarding administration. In addition to that, there should be kind of like, for information purposes, a identity of the cost per activity or program. And they refer to that in the HUD language as a program administrative costs or activity administrative costs. And while those can be 20% for each activity, an aggregate total that's represented here is basically a blanket statement on total administration costs. It may be out there, but it's not presented as that. Also, the aspect of the $30,000 of public safety applications, that it can be also used in terms of actual administrative costs associated with financing police services within those designated areas. I think Crystal knows that. But I've also suggested in the stakeholders meeting, and specifically to the chief, that one of the things that could be done, although we have to craft it, is the investment in having a mobile precinct, not a weed and feed trailer, but an actual RV that is involved with the community and could be layered out across the board and used by other departments. That could serve as a community engagement vehicle so that when it's parked, it could be staffed either with active police officers or by community watch, by council people to take in information and present themselves to their neighborhoods or their wards. Now, if that can't be financed through the block grant program, I think we ought to consider another way of doing that, either through local funding or through a GoFundMe application as a sidebar to funding this type of program. The chief is on board with that. I think Crystal understands what I've said. We talked about it. The CHDO, or Community Housing Development Organization source, is a local choice, although HUD wants it. I would say that the city should investigate the possibility of doing that internally rather than sending the money out to somewhere like Code or some other organization for that purpose. That's an activity that has some flexibility that needs to be looked at. In addition to that, the lead-based paint application is an extreme amount going to one facility. Well, I have no problem with it being spent on lead-based paint removal. The identification should be as to whether it's external lead-based paint removal. They require two different type of applications for that type of removal. In addition to that, if that money's not spent accordingly, I would suggest it go back into the community if the facility for domestic problems associated with that doesn't take forward this year. It should not be set aside if we're not going to have a project. The final comment I have really deals with the viability of rehab projects based on the total allocation per unit being done. I would strongly suggest that we look at a much more stronger approach to not just doing rehabs, but also getting into owner-occupied housing. Now, how you choose to do that, it depends on how crafty you are in terms of putting it together. In addition, the matrix application of where the projects are going to go should be done on enumeration districts rather than wards, because it definitely can define it more applicable in terms of what impact. And then any additional funding, remember the block grant funding is used for these activities. It can't be a set aside for other grant applications that may come down the road, like community consolidated funding applications or something else. You can't double budget. So I'm sure Crystal knows this, but it's something that's got to be considered. So that kind of sums up what I think needs to be done. But I think also the community development administration would be enhanced by having a community development commission composed of citizens that help facilitate citizen participation and also take a harder, longer look at what the community development process is all about. I think that's being discussed. I think that should be implemented this coming year. Thank you for the comments and the opportunity.
Thank you, Mr. Champ. I appreciate that. Are there any other members of the public that would like to make a comment?
I would.
Paternity, yes. Please state your name and your address prior to your comments.
I'm Melissa Paternity, 346 Faulkner Street. I worked with Crystal and her team and Doug with the 5-year plan also. And I think that what Crystal and her team have come up with is amazing. I mean, there's so many things that can be done in the city. If we all had like $1 million in our pocket, we could just snap our fingers and say, okay, let's do that, and let's do this, and let's do that. And what we have to work with the HUD money is what we have. And I think that using it to the best of the ability and seeing in 3 years, where we are, I think it'll be great. And Doug, you got good ideas. Maybe it's time to invest some money into the city. Use your ideas for profit.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Ms. Paterniti. Any further comments?
Nope.
Okay. Any other comments from members of the public?
Just a quick, I'm sorry. I just wanted to jump in on Mr. Champ's comment. I know in the police reform initiative, we did talk about the mobile unit, and he's expanded upon that to include the council people to participate in that. I just wondered, can we take that RV to a Bills game next year?
Right.
President Dulce, I'm sure that we can work with the, I'm sure we could work with the Bills to make that happen, right?
I don't think your ward includes, the stadium, Bill Stadium. I'm not sure.
It doesn't go that far north, I know.
No, I don't think so. But I like the idea.
Thank you.
Seriously, though, I think that's a good idea. I know that we had discussed that in one of the breakout sessions and talked about the old trailers that were used, but if this was more.
Yeah, I was just going to say that. Wasn't there a trailer that was like down by Crescent Street that sat there for a long time and it had the logo on it, but.
That was funded through Weed and Seed.
Yeah, it was a grant that was used back then for that.
Yeah, I remember.
Our office had it in the parking lot on North Main Street for a while, and they used to do, Steve Schwebka and Officer Fi used to do bike patrol from that area. It did help, and they did make inroads in the neighborhood on 10th and Main. Until they tried to remove the trailer, someone hooked it up and took it off of part of its foundation. They took the steps away, and
I think there's some great things going on with the police department already. You can see the community getting involved with the police officers and vice versa. And, I think it's great.
All right. Are there any further comments from the public? Any further comments from the public? Any further comments from the public? I'm trying to make this sound just like the real thing for you all. Any further comments from the elected officials? All right, hearing none, we will now close this public hearing. Yes.
We have someone who just entered the waiting room.
Okay, looks like Council Member Tamu Graham Reinhardt.
Sorry.
Hello.
It looks like David Lang. No.
Graham Reinhardt, do you have any public comments you'd like to make?
No, because I just got home and just popped on. I've been running errands all day, and I'm like, okay. Is it still on? Is this thing still on?
Tap.
Is it done?
This public session is done, but the next one will be starting momentarily.
Oh, well, good.
Good timing.
So, what was the first one? The first one was about I listened to your State of the City. Yeah. Okay.
So hearing no further public comments, we will submit those as part of the today's public hearing record. The council members, I believe, will be voting. Is that tonight, Crystal?
Yeah.
On the agenda tonight. Members of the council that are here tonight will then weigh in this evening on the comprehensive action plan and annual action plan. Thank you all for being a part of this this evening and providing your comments. And have a wonderful night. To our council members, there should be the next link, which we'll be joining at 6:45 with DOT for those that would like to join us.
Oh, we can join that one too?
That's just for the council members.
Oh, okay. Shucks.
All right. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Have a good night.
All right.
Good night.
Bye.